Next bill on the calendar, Vice Chair Tapke of House File 3071. All right. We'll wait for folks to exit here. I understand you have a DE amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members. Yes, we have a DE that we've been working on since last session to get the bill in the shape we'd like to be in.
Okay, what does the DE entail?
The DE adds, get to my notes here, apologize. So what this bill does is we are working with DVS and with community members on creating and implementing plain language and manuals for the DVS driver's test and the manuals. So we'll be translating manuals to make sure that everyone adequately and appropriately learns how to drive in the state of Minnesota and also to pass the driver's test. And so as we know, there's a backlog on driver's tests, and where that is because a lot of folks are taking the driver's test time and time again. So we will be helping make sure that people have the right information and are able to pass the test without being tripped up. And we'll go into that a little bit more in a moment, Mr. Chair.
Well, let's move your bill first. I think the motion is for House File 3071 to be referred to Ways and Means.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's the motion.
Okay, so is there any discussion to the amendment that Vice Chair Tabke described? The DE amendment. Okay, all those in favor of the DE signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion prevails. Okay, so we have House File 3071 as amended before us. Is there any additional items you would like to discuss?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Chair and members, there has long been work in the state of Minnesota to implement plain language. So it has their federal statutes that require plain language in our bills and how we work in government, but also Governor Dayton in 2014 had an executive order requiring plain language for everything in the executive branch. And so DVS has been working on plain language on the driver's test and manual for quite some time. And what this bill will do is help get to that final place with making sure that the driver's test and the manual are accessible and able to be used by everybody in the state of Minnesota that is learning to drive. And so last session, Amna Kiran, who was an English teacher in Andover, came to us with talking about this bill and why it is important. And I'd like her, Mr. Chair, if you're okay with that, to come down and testify as to the need of the bill.
Okay. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
My name is Amna Kiran, and thank you very much for having me here. All right, so I'm an ESL teacher and I teach English as a second language to the students who have other languages involved in their households. And I've been affiliated with Anoka Hennepin School District for almost 6 years. As a part of my job, I not only provide direct English language instructions to the students, but I also help them in their mainstream classes as well to help the materials of mainstream classes accessible to them. So while I was helping some of my students, I started helping them with the driver's ed classes as well. And I could see that they were very ecstatic taking those classes. They were working really hard because they knew that after that they'll be able to pass the test and will be able to help their families. And like I said, that they were passing all the tests and they were coming for extra help before and after school. But when it came to actual DVS, the final test, they were failing it. Upon inquiry, they said that they did not understand the questions in the test. And then they related similar experiences about their family members as well, who had a great deal of, of experience of driving in their countries, and yet when they came to the U.S. and they took the test here, they were failing it, and some of them probably are still driving outside, like out on the roads, and without a driver's license now, and with no insurance. And honestly speaking, I do not blame them because they cannot starve their kids to death because of a poorly written test. I spoke with some of the native speakers as well about this issue and inquired about their experiences about it. And they had similar experiences too. They were going through the same ordeal of complex language and confusing wording in the test. I corresponded with the DVS about it and wondered about what was their rationale behind writing the questions the way they did, when the same questions can be written in simple and plain language. And I also provided them with the examples, taking some of their example questions and rewrote them in simple and plain English, but I did not get a very satisfactory response, which led me into doing a deeper study on that, in which I collected data from native speakers of the language and non-native speakers of the languages on, this, on the same issue. And here are some of the examples that I had. Sorry, before I give you the examples, I would like to show you the data. So one of the questions on my questionnaire was, what did you find more difficult on the test? And it is collected both from native and non-native speakers. So was it the content on the test or the language of the test? And here is the pie chart. We can see this is the result of the non-native speakers. This is how many people found the language difficult. And below the second pie chart, that is for all the native speakers, all this red, they are finding the language difficult and not the content. The next question on the test, the questionnaire was, did you find language confusing? And this top one is for the non-native speakers. They were all finding the language and the wording and the test confusing. And this is for the native speakers. So we can see that in both the pie charts, there's not much difference. So the point we're trying to make here is that if the test is this much difficult and the language is this much complex and complicated for the native speakers of the language, imagine how much more it is going to be for non-native speakers of the language. And here I would like to give you some examples of the typical language of the tests on the questions on the test. Obviously, it's not stolen from the secure test of the driver's their driver's test, but it's the typical language they use. So backing up is not allowed on freeways or expressways except for blank. So here it has a multiple layers of complexity. Not only we are using double negatives, but also we are expecting the test taker to give us the answer which is not the right answer. So we are kind of like making the test tricky. So as human, at least my brain works is, as soon as I read a question, I start looking for the answer and not for something which is not the answer. But that's what we are trying to make the people do here. So the same question can be rewritten as, only blank vehicles are allowed to back up on a freeway. It's exactly the same question and now cleaned up. Another example for that is, on urban or town roads, the legal speed limit under ideal driving conditions is blank unless traffic signs indicate otherwise. Again, packed with language and packed with tricky. The formation of the question is very tricky. The same question can be rewritten following the guidelines of Plain Language Act. Could be, when the speed limit is not posted on the city or the town roads, the legal speed limit is blank. Just one more example, with the complicated and obscure vocabulary. Anyone who flees a police officer using a motor vehicle may be sentenced to imprisonment for not more than. Again, it has multiple layers of complexities, and plus the kind of vocabulary is used. For example, flees, that can have multiple meanings. Sentenced, multiple meanings. Imprisonment, not everyone would understand what imprisonment means. Why can we not write the same question as, if anyone runs away from a police officer using a motor vehicle, he or she can go to jail for blank or less time. So from my first correspondence with the DVS, they thought that I'm asking them to bring down the rigor of the test or to make the test easy. By no means we are asking that. We're just asking them to keep the rigor of the test the same, but ask the questions in a way where people can understand it. So from these examples, it's crystal clear that the DVS employs difficult English language, obscure vocabulary, and complicated sentence structures to write the questions. This makes the test seem more like an advanced English language test and not a knowledge test for the driving. That leads us to two significant outcomes. First of all, the current test that we have is invalid assessment of the test, because the intent of the test is to assess the driving knowledge of the test taker and not their ability to be able to decode complex sentence structures. because it's not an advanced literacy exam, it's a driver's test. And secondly, this DVS test turns out to be inequitable and clearly discriminates against those individuals who do not speak English as a first language, and also the native speakers of the language, but they have lower reading abilities. They have maybe reading disabilities or lower reading levels, or those who have not have high education or have not had the opportunities to attend the school. I just want to extend a question to you, and of course I'm not asking for an answer, just food for thought. Do lack of academic English, lower reading levels, and lack of educational opportunities make anyone a bad driver? Here since we're talking about the advanced literacy exams, in 2014, the College Board overhauled their SAT college entrance exam in 2014, and they removed all the obscure vocabulary from them and from the test. College Board President David Coleman at that time said that the test should provide worthy challenges and not artificial obstacles. And that's what we have in this test right now. These are not worthy challenges. These are unnecessary obstacles that we need to remove from the test. So again, I'm not asking to make the test simple or easy by any means. The DVS should keep the rigor of the test the same, only write the question in a way where people can understand. I would like to conclude my testimony by saying that writing the test following the guidelines of Plain Language Act will not only make it a valid assessment, which every assessment should be valid for driving, but also ensure an equitable opportunity for every Minnesotan to succeed. And it could also result into more legal drivers on the road, and especially after the passage of driver's lessons for all, this is the next logical step we can take. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. Is there discussion? Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe Vice Chair Tapke knows this answer. Maybe someone else in the audience does. But it's my understanding that the federal government, as you stated, passed a law in 2010. So, I was right out of high school in 2010, saying that we need to have it in plain language. And then Governor Dayton, in 2014, had an executive order, which was stated already as well, saying that we need all agencies to have this common language, this understandable way of writing things. That was a decade ago. So the question is, why are we still dealing with this? I'm not saying we shouldn't deal with it today. I'm just wondering, it's been 14 years in one instance, it's been a decade in another instance, and we're still not here. With that being said, why are we spending $212,000 on stuff that we should have done a decade ago? Is that not done, or are we just redoing what's already been done?
Vice Chair Tapke.
Mr. Chair and Representative Olson, yeah, that's a really great question, and it would be wonderful if it were done already, and it all depends on, I think my understanding is it all depends on what your interpretation of what the plain language standard requires, and so a lot of folks didn't feel like testing was included under that plain language standard, and so with that, DVS has since changed their, I don't know if necessarily changed their opinion on that is a great way to say it, but has taken a different direction, and they are working on this as we speak, and this will help to make sure that that gets done in a timely manner and gets implemented and does a good job for everybody. So the testing side of things has been iffy, so a lot of folks thought it would reduce the rigor of the test by using plain language for it, but this, in my opinion, clearly does not.
Can I?
Mr. Chair,
Proceed.
I would like to add something as well.
So in my correspondence with the DVS, and I had a meeting with them as well, they said that they are aware of the Plain Language Act guidelines, and right now they are at the correspondence level with the laymen, but they do not have enough resources to implement this Plain Language Act guidelines onto their test or the manual. And for that, we started a petition as well, on which we have over 1,500 signatures for asking the governors to give us to give DVS enough resources so that they can implement these Plain Language Act guidelines on their manual and the test. So they said they don't have enough resources.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one comment. It's always disappointing to me when agencies consistently say we just don't have the resources for this. Like, it's a $70 billion government. I think you can find the resources in the couch cushions.
Thank you, Representative Wilson. Is there any other discussion? Representative Murphy. Oh.
Thank you,
Sorry
Mr.
about
Chair.
that.
Thank you, Representative Tapke. I was just wondering, the cleaning up the language makes sense to me, but can we do it without spending the money? And there's other groups. I mean, the CDL group, you're going to have CNAs. We talked about that, but cleaning the language makes sense without having to spend the money on all the extra stuff. And when does it stop? When do we have to also get to, we have to change signs? Where does the money stop being spent? If we can just change the language, wouldn't that be a better first step to make sure it's plain language?
Vice Chair Tafke.
Mr. Chair and Representative, I'm not sure I understand the question specifically that you're asking there, but what my opinion on that is it is really important that we make sure that everyone on the roads is safe and understands what it is to be a good driver in the state of Minnesota, as well as reducing the time that it takes to get through the driver's test if folks need to have retakes or however that works. We know that that's an issue that has been perennially problematic, and if we can make sure that if someone who knows what they need to know to be a good driver is able to take and pass the test and just has issues, whether it's language issues, whether they get scared at taking tests, whatever that is, that if they have a better opportunity at passing this test because they have the knowledge and they know what it takes to be a good driver in the state of Minnesota, that we're making sure that we are giving every opportunity to get that done.
Representative Murphy.
So if we just simplify the test, where does the cost come in?
Mr. Chair and Representative Murphy, this is not simplifying the test. This is not changing the rigor or the requirements of knowledge for the test whatsoever. This is just making sure that instead of having that with the plain language, that it is having straight up questions that are asking a question with an answer on there, and not neither nor and either or and except for this and but for that. If you read the language that's in here, it very clearly delineates as to what the plain language, it reiterates what the plain language standards are with that. So it's not simplifying the test, and MnDOT is going through rewrites of the, not MnDOT, DVS is going through rewrites of this now, but in order to get to this level of specificity and make sure that there is adequate input from all stakeholders to make sure that we're getting where we need to be with this so that it gets done right. The fiscal note is like, obviously I'd rather have a fiscal note that was $0, and that would be, I mean, we'd obviously all love to have that, but it takes money to get some things done and get them done right, and I'd much rather have this done right than to skimp on it. So I think we'll be much more successful as a state doing that.
Just to follow up, the testifier's words were tricky. So you make it less tricky. How is making the test less tricky going to cost $212,000? Are we adding languages, or what are we doing that's different than the graph that she showed a minute ago? Showed the difference between native speakers and not. And so my question is, if we just make it less tricky, how does that trigger added cost? So that's my final question.
Mr. Chair, if we could have DVS come down.
What?
If DVS could come down and answer that question.
Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Pong Zhang, Director of the Driver and Vehicle Services Division. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. Thank you for the question. It's the bulk of the fiscal note is actually targeted for translation, and which is the cost for us. Currently, we offer the test in multiple languages, and as we put together this fiscal note, we identified that if we're going to update the manual and update the exam, that we should do that across the board for all the languages that we already support. And so you'll see in the fiscal note, in the assumptions we detailed, which portions need translation and which portions need reprogramming. That is the bulk of the cost.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a question for the director. It's my understanding that DVS already has about $20 million. Is there a plan for that $20 million that you have? You can't absorb some of that yourself?
Vice Chair Tapke.
Mr. Chair and Representative, that's where the money is coming from. It's from the $20 million operating fund.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that.
We have
Yeah,
Chair
it's not general fund. It's coming from that already existing operating fund. So this
Chair
is not.
Cagle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's the point I was going to make. If you read the bill, it says it's coming from the Driver and Vehicle Services operating account, so it's not new money. It's coming from within the department.
Thank you.
Wilson, did
Thank you
wanna
for that
add?
introduction. You know, the sly little. If you read the bill, appreciate it. I was reading my my little notes here.
All right, good to have a little mixing it up a little. That got everyone woken up a little bit. Okay, any further discussion? All right. Vice Chair Tapke, do you have any additional thoughts that you would like to convey about House File 3071 as amended?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I just first want to appreciate and thank Amna for just her incredible work on this. If you saw that binder that she's got, it's got tons of signatures in there, lots and lots of data, lots and lots of information that about this issue. And she's put so much work into getting us to this point. It's just been wonderful working with her and getting here. So this is something that will help to alleviate issues within the testing side of things with DVS. This is a bill that will help make sure that this is accessible to everyone, no matter if you have limited English, no matter if you are someone who struggles with tests. This is something that will be good for everyone, and I would appreciate everyone's support in moving this to Ways and Means. With that, I renew my motion to move House File 3071 as amended to Ways and Means, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion prevails.